Come on, Medic, it'll be fun, Abacus tried to convince the busy doctor. Everyone's going out trick-or-treating. Why won't you? Medic had been ignoring the gaggle of spoofers behind him for about an hour now, and they still hadn't got the hint. He was still having flashbacks to last Halloween when he let his brother borrow his lab coat and an old broken medipack. He won a costume contest. Everyone called him a Ghostbuster. Meanwhile, no one had recognised Medic wearing a grey suit and a paper mask. He'd ended up spending the entire evening protecting his sister from a drunk guy who kept on hitting on her. This year, Medic just wanted to be left alone. He'd always been the sensible one around here, and trick-or-treating just did not suit him. No, I don't want to go trick-or-treating. I'm diabetic anyway. Why the hell am I going to do with all these sweets? Who are you dressed as anyway? Oh, me? Abacus grinned. He was standing there, shirtless, with a backpack and a medigun. I'm dressed up as a hunky Ghostbuster. I guess you're right about the candy, though. Well, I'll be sure to bring that sun just in case. We'll see you later, Black Mage C-type, ironically dressed as a white mage, waved as he pushed everyone out the door. Have fun being a loner, Damo shouted, only to get slapped across the face by the only guy ever. The door slammed shut behind them, and Medic finally relaxed. Unfortunately, his peace and quiet were quickly interrupted. There was an eerie knocking at the window. With a sigh, Medic got up to see who it was. It was just Mystic the Meme. Medic rolled his eyes, unable to hear what Mystic was saying, and opened the window. What? I forgot my handbag. Well, why didn't you just knock on the front door so I'd let you back in? The doorbell works perfectly fine, Medic tutted as he reached behind him and pulled out a red bag with a faint flower pattern on it. Mystic happily snatched the handbag and zoomed off to catch up with the other spoofers, muttering a quick goodbye. With that interruption over with, Medic went back to what he was doing. His plan was to spend the evening writing Daily SPUF articles. It wasn't that Medic was falling behind or anything, not at all. It was just that Medic preferred writing to socialising. He had a list of ideas, varying from some of his favourite video game songs, to yet another article about Warframe, to an idea about how his brother Teroxy had changed his username for the first time in 10 years, to Smeghead of all things. Medic flipped open his little computer and opened up LibreOffice. Medic was a cheap person and didn't want to pay for Microsoft Office and its related programs, but as Medic was about to press the first letter on his keyboard, he heard something move in the kitchen. A loud bang. Immediately, Medic got up. He knew he wasn't alone in the house. He rushed to the kitchen to see what had caused the noise. A strange, dark liquid covered the floor and splattered over the cupboards. It smelled sweet and sickly, looking ominous and slightly evil. On the opposite wall, a handful of plates that had been left to dry were broken, as if something had shot through them. On the counter was the cause of the bang. Oh, for fuck's sake, Medic exclaimed as he grabbed a mop. I fucking told them to put that shaken-up bottle of cherry cola outside before it exploded. Thurber had accidentally dropped the family-sized bottle from the cupboard the other day, and rather than try and defizz it or anything, he just left it there. Now the bottle had exploded, and the lid had shot off across the room. With yet another interruption out of the way, Medic headed back to his laptop, only to find that his pencil and notepad were missing, and the desk was all messed up. After having a quick look around, he found his pencil on the floor, but the notepad was still missing. Medic looked around a bit more, then gave up and sat down. But instead of being greeted by silence, he was greeted by the sound of chewing and grunting. Again, Medic got up and headed straight into the living room. In the middle of the room, something furry growled and sneered, tearing Medic's notebook to shreds. No, Colin, bad dog, that's my book, Medic shouted as he clapped his hands. The little beagle jumped up and wagged his tail, unaware that he had done anything wrong. As far as Colin was concerned, anything that fell on the floor was his. Medic hesitantly picked up the remains of his formerly brand new notebook and threw it in the bin. He then grabbed one of Colin's chew toys and threw it vaguely in the dog's direction before going back to his desk. This time Medic was adamant that he would get something done. So when Medic heard something banging below him, he didn't quite comprehend what had happened. It took several more bangs for Medic to realise there was something going on in the basement. With yet another sigh, Medic got up to investigate. But as Medic approached the door to go down to the basement, he could hear more banging. It sounded somewhat worrying, but considering the amount of crap that he and the other spoofers had kept down there, it didn't seem too surprising either. There was a lone window down there, but only big enough for a cat to crawl through. He looked around for the light switch for the basement and flicked it on. A small crack of glass was heard. The light had blown. Typical. Medic stood still for a moment, thinking to himself. He didn't know what it was, but his best guess was that it was just one of the other spoofers' pets. If it was, there was food and water down there, so the disgruntled pet would be fine until morning. If it wasn't, well... He wasn't stupid. There was no reason to mess around with torches and changing light bulbs and stuff, or risk falling down the stairs, or tripping over the cat, or anything like that. Medic smiled, locked the basement door, then calmly walked back to his desk. Maybe he'd write something spooky, as it was Halloween after all. Whatever was down in the basement, it could wait until morning.